तो आप लोग रोल कर रहे हो। आज एक डीओपी के बीच चेहरे पे मेकअप लग रहा है, बुरी आदतें ना डालें, कॉपीराइट भी एक चीज होती है सालों, ये तो सब कहने की बातें हैं।
Click of a button, we should change the vibe.
मुझे नहीं पता।
I'm sweating already.
तो बाकी तो यही है, बाकी तो आप लोग देख लो शो, बाकी अच्छा लगा ही होगा। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you.
मेरा नाम है आनंद तिवारी। आई एम वन ऑफ द राइटर्स एंड डायरेक्टर एंड वन ऑफ द शो रनर्स ऑफ बंदिश बैंडिट्स सीजन 2। मेरे साथ हैं हमारे डीओपी एंड डायरेक्टर ऑफ फोटोग्राफी अनुभव बंसल। ये जितने हैंडसम हैं उतने ही अच्छे डीओपी भी हैं, और इनके डोलों की वजह से हमारे कई सारे जो सीन्स हैं, जिनकी कुछ आपने बीटीएस में हमारे देखे होंगे इमेजेस, हैंडल्ड हैं, गिम्बल्ड हैं, or we could experiment quite a lot because a lot of DOPs abroad are not operators themselves. In India, most DOPs are operators, but in India also some DOPs don't operate themselves. They sit behind the monitor and then design the scene with the director. But in our case, we had a fantastic operator and a DOP in Anubhav Bansal, all rolled into one. Welcome to IFP. I've had the privilege of doing some bits with them before, and I feel like I'm at home. And with you, I've always felt at home. So here we are. You have watched season 1 and then we started doing season 2.
Yes.
Did season 1 excite you, hence season 2, or you can be quite candid and tell us whether this was just a project that came along and you wanted to be...
So I happened to see Majama when
Right.
Bandish happened to me. And I was like, yeah, why I really want to work with directors. Like, I'm not saying it for the heck of it, but I wanted to work on stories which are so well said. And I fell in love with the story, and I was like, this is something I really want to shoot because I've been really close to music as well. And when we met, you know,
Then magic happened.
magic happened.
Honestly, when I met Anubhav, and I'd already seen some of his showreel before, because that's what we do when we meet people. We first see their work, start having conversations कि अच्छा सेट पे कैसा है, परेशान तो नहीं करेगा. So इनकी बाकी सारी रिपोर्ट कार्ड तो अच्छी आ गई थी. Then the final thing was meeting, and we ended up jamming a lot. And for me, the one thing that I really connected on, there was a certain amount of spiritual connect that I felt with him. As much as I needed with my actors, I needed with my HODs too. And with Anubhav, I felt कि यार हमें ना मज़ा आएगा काम करने में साथ में. And इसके पहले मेरा experience with gimbals especially, जो एक equipment होता है जो कैमरा को एक किस्म का smooth operation देता है movement के साथ. That every time I tried to use in my projects, whether it was season 1 of Bandish, whether in Majama, I'd never been able to shoot well enough. So you either hire a Steadicam operator or you do handheld, and both the movements aren't the kind of movements I was looking for. In the test shoot, we started discovering the language we wanted to say the show with, which we very quickly realized that was exciting us from a movement point of view, because we were dealing with music, of course. Now to actually execute it, let's get into a scene and probably we can chat more about what we were thinking and how it eventually turned out. Tell us about your experience of shooting IBC overall and Hitchki.
Hitchki, I think we were always clear that this is the most peppiest song that we have, and the folkness of it has to come out with the vibrancy and the colors that we see already in this. I don't think any other song is as vibrant as this song.
No.
Every song.
Because this is the only song that did not have much of story.
Story and drama, nothing as such. It's a happy, peppy song that we always sure of.
Correct.
Adding some fun elements, like I don't know if you guys have seen the BTS of this, where Anand sir and he was operating the zoom, and you know, we were just feeling the music. I was going here and there crazy with the cam, and he was just going with the flow and doing crash zooms and all.
And to be honest, you can't. The thing is, and I know Anubhav will back me on this. A DOP or a director's job is in a way very sexy, and you think that ये दो लोग मिलके ही सब कर देते हैं, पर ऐसा नहीं है. इसमें बहुत बड़ा हाथ होता है प्रोडक्शन डिजाइनर का.
Absolutely.
जो हमारे केस में हमारी लाइफ की सेवियर मानिनी है, और कॉस्ट्यूम का जो हमारे केस में हेजल है. और उनके साथ एक बहुत बड़ा एस्पेक्ट होता है, वो होता है एडिटर.
करेक्ट.
क्योंकि आप कितना भी अच्छा शूट करके आ जाओ, अगर एडिटर इज नॉट विद द रिदम इन विच वी हैड शॉट इट इन, we wouldn't be sitting here and talking to you about these shots that you finally see because they made the final edits. And let's talk about color palette, because that I fully rely on my HODs. How did the color paletting of every song go? And let's talk about Hitchki first.
So as I said, when we heard this song, it was supposed to be we decided that since it has a very folk feel to it from Rajasthan, so we thought of adding all the Rajasthan vibrancy, which is mostly warmer palette, that we were looking for this song, because we had kind of thought of other songs also that we had to shoot later, but this song was definitely for us, it was in a vibrant warmer palette altogether, which comes from Rajasthan obviously. So if you see all the costumes and all the colors, even the lights that we have used, it's all in a warm palette out and out.
Correct. The way that the set was designed, I think we should talk about that too. The design of the set came from a challenge of time and a challenge of money. Each song needs to look different. We had a lot of ideas in terms of, if you remember, Manini had some amazing ideas of how we could have arches of India, we could have when the modern songs come, they could look different, where every song would have a setup that would aid, things could fly in, fly out. But when we came down to the brass tacks, और जब पैसों की बात आई, तब हमें पता चला कि हमारे पास उतने ही दिन हैं सारे गाने शूट करने के, with all the drama scenes on that stage and so on and so forth. So we couldn't do much. We had to create a set that could be as is and very quickly change into something else.
Click of a button, we should change the vibe altogether.
Yeah, so with lights and with what would happen on screens. We were able to then create different worlds. In Hitchki, as you see, there is a lot of Rajasthani motifs in that pop artwork world that happens, and we also use Katputli-ness of characters bobbing away, or camels bobbing away, or fun trucks bobbing away onto the desert is what we kept. Playfulness was happening from the camera perspective, from the actor's perspective, and from the backdrop as well.
Whenever I've watched Bandish twice, and I've seen it a zillion times while grading it. I think always I've thought of, because we had so many characters at any given point. Like every scene has either the Rajasthan world, the Gharana side, or
the royalty-free side.
Royalty-free side. Every time when I see my own frame and this thing, everything is so well thought of, costume, colors and palette and everything. But when you have to take care of so many actors all together, it's a tough job to just kind of blend in the whole environment.
In fact, the world of music school, which was largely shot in a place called Sanar, it's a boarding school in Kasauli. A lot of people who actually came when we were shooting there thought that this was actually a music school. And then of course a lot of the places that we shot were cheated. We shot in Naigaon, the classroom of Nandini, which is a huge ass auditorium space, was in Naigaon, not in Kasauli. But to make it look like an actual jam room is a vision that was translated so well. And Hitchki is the only song that has promo-ness to it. If you see, Hitchki starts off with a different aspect ratio. It starts off even wider than 235, and then slowly it starts opening up with split screens and this and that. None of the other songs have that, because every other song has drama in it. Hitchki is the only song that we break that rule, because we wanted that song to be just a song. Very little drama elements. So now let's talk about this scene that comes in episode 3, where Radhe has what in writing we call the dark night of the soul, where the protagonist really, is thrown with a challenge and then comes out with a solution. So it was a very important scene that we approached. And the biggest duality between in art is whether art is done for art's sake or is art done for an audience. And a lot of experimentation gets lost when you're doing it for an audience, because you're trying to keep it safe, trying to keep it entertaining, trying to listen to what audiences want, and then you experiment less. And sometimes if you go in the other direction and experiment a lot, then you are only talking to people who listen to you. मैंने जब अपने रिसर्च में हमने बात की तो शास्त्रीय संगीत के साथ ऑफ कोर्स उनकी एक बहुत अच्छी ऑडियंस है, पर नई ऑडियंसेस उन्हें नहीं मिल रही, तो उसी को थोड़ा सा हमने एक्सट्रीम तरीके से हम ले गए. Anubhav, take us through how we approached shooting of the scene, because we've also used a camera technique that came in quite handy to us later.
So about this scene, I would say in my language, in simple this thing. So after the confrontation of Mahi only, I think the scene happens where he's kind of vulnerable also, and he's basically comes to this place where he used to visit with Panditji as a child. So right now it's about him whether he's going to be able to participate in IBC or not, feeling the power and his strength that he holds from his gharana. So we wanted to kind of feel the aura of the space very strongly, along with showing him his own power of Shastra Sangeet and the power that gharana holds. So we designed a round trolley shot for this particular shot, and I think it's kind of a single shot only where we keep going around with different mag and just feeling the space and the aura. But the space didn't allow us to do that. We had a really small alley with all the seats around it, and which were not removable for us. So we came up with an idea of creating a rig that makes so a character can stand on it, and there's an arm attached to it, and it kind of goes around it. So it gives you kind of a circular move without actually putting those 20 feet wide radius round trolleys and all. That was very important, for we could have let it go also.
Correct.
But I think you were also very sure of that. We need to go around him and feel the space and the aura that, that decision making and power, it could come from that shot only.
Yeah.
So yeah, that.
And also it gives him a good sense that his world is going to change 360.
Correct.
His world is going to go from who he is to who he was, no matter what choice he makes.
Right.
As Anubhav very rightly said, that sometimes you want something but the location doesn't allow you to, but then you come up with genius solutions like he did. And in fact we created a round trolley shot where there was no possibility of putting actual tracks to create that round trolley.
Correct.
Even in Sawan Mohe Tarsaye we used the same thing, where there was also a cheat. Can I tell them the cheat?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Cheat ये था actually, and with due respect to my actors, is that बहुत मुश्किल है क्लासिकल म्यूजिक को लिप सिंक करना, बट आवर एक्टर्स वर्कड रियली हार्ड विद अक्षत एंड मेड दैट पॉसिबल. But there was one particular sargam right at the end of Sawan Mohe Tarsaye, which was so fast that I did not want Atul sir and Shiva ma'am to worry about. So I told them, this you don't worry about because ये एक round trolley ही होगा. तो अगर आप अब देखेंगे तो वो they are hardly lip syncing the last parts. They are because the trolley is so fast you can hardly make out that part of lip sync. Everything else they caught. So it also was a cheat of not throwing them in the deep end कि यार अब ये जो रॉकेट की स्पीड में रैप की तरह सरगम हो रही है, आपको इसे भी हूबहू वैसे पकड़ना है. हमने कहा इसके लिए आप डिस्ट्रेस हो जाओ, अब बाकी के पोर्शंस याद कर लो. सो दे वर ऑल्सो वेरी हैप्पी कि हमने डिज़ाइन वाइज ये चूज़ कर लिया, तो उनको भी थोड़ी सांस में सांस आई.
Correct. Which is why we went into with that rigging thing. Otherwise, round trolley wouldn't have given us that speed that we wanted.
Correct. Season 1 was largely based in Rajasthan. So is season 2. Of course, there is a diversion we take to the hills. Some part of the story is in Bombay, but Rajasthan is synonymous with Bandish Bandits. As a DOP, what was your approach? How did you want to interpret that? Especially now that we were also going into newer locations, not just the incumbent locations of season 1.
So to begin with, I think Rajasthan, when we also spoke about kind of differentiating between Rajasthan and hills and all that, we came up with several ideas that we'll give a different kind of look only altogether.
Correct.
A zillion ideas came to our heads. But I always wanted to stay authentic to the Rajasthan feel to it.
Right.
Like, the right colors and not going overboard with the look is something that we were sure of. We also tried, when we reached the grading stage, this was all verbally when we had spoken earlier, but when we actually reached the grading stage, we tried a lot of different looks. We decided that we should not go for the look. So we thought of, creating a balance between hills in Rajasthan and not keep them drastically different from each other. Like, stories cutting from Rajasthan to hills, and it shouldn't be like a distraction from hills to Rajasthan cutting with different kind of looks, because the show was not about the look. You need to feel the characters and stay with them. So at any point we didn't want the look to take over and kind of distract audience from.
In fact, just to give you more into specifics, we tried going warmer for Rajasthan and colder for the hills. So even though it was sunny, the hills would have that ठंडी की जो धूप होती है ना, उसमें एक नीलापन होता है. So we tried that.
In the shadows, yeah.
In Rajasthan, we tried to keep it warmer, so even the shadows would have that slight warmth to it. But suddenly we started realizing that because the story is so largely intercut, it distracted from the telling.
Yeah.
And because the story is so much about characters, we let them speak, we let the story speak, the narrative speak, and the jump of locations seems seamless rather than making it very stark for you, because we weren't telling a mood show.
Correct.
This is not a mood show. This is a show about relationships.
What a fab job he's done.
Fantastic.
Tushar Desai, the colorist, he is the guy.
He's our savior.
Savior.
हमारी कई जो गलतियां जो हम आपको कभी नहीं बताएंगे.
कभी नहीं बताएंगे. Tushar Desai is the guy for that.
बचा लिया. So we also made a film called Bad News, which I directed, and Debojit Ray was the DOP of that film. We did some patch shoots. Well, patch shoots are basically after you put the edit together, you want to close up here, you close up there. Sometimes you may reinterpret a scene differently. So in that we had Santha and we had Anubhav sir helping us out with actually shooting those portions. So I tried to keep Bad News and Bandish as two of my babies who had nothing to do with each other, because one was made for a different audience, theatre going audience, and one was made for an OTT audience. Though they might be the same people, their consumption is very different. How did you approach it differently from, of course, taking over from a different DOP, keeping in mind that you're kind of servicing a look that has already been set? How did you, as a DOP, approach when you are supposed to come in to kind of help out on a project like what you did for Bandish? And of course, being an out-and-out primary DOP for a show like Bandish.
So Bad News, so basically when you, as a DP, whenever you do any kind of patchwork or you kind of get into a film or a project which is already have been shot by another DP altogether, you have more responsibility than you would have as shooting your own project, because there you are going with the flow, your intuition, your creative senses and everything. But here you have to kind of be responsible enough to know what the other DP, how he would have shot and how he has shot the film, how his vision was for the film. I can't do anything differently when I land up on the budget and be like, this is what I want to do it. Right. That's not the way it works. And I quite like the way the film was shot. I think I added a little more gloss to it, and but
because in fact the elements that we shot with you required a certain amount of a tinge of that. It's fascinating how DOPs have to kind of adhere to different rhythms depending on how and when you come onto a project. So coming back to Bandish Bandits, let's talk about a scene that is being talked about quite a lot on the internet, the song called Ghara Mahi. A lot of you have been asking us to put out the entire song on YouTube as well, the show version of the song, because there is also a music video that we shot of the song. We did not involve Sajan Bin in the music video because it came before the series came out and we did not want to give you any spoilers. But now that the series is out, hopefully Amazon will listen to you and bring out Ghara Mahi as a standalone. The series version will also be available, hopefully. But let's talk about how we approached Ghara Mahi differently from, say, a Hitchki.
This is the first time they come face to face with each other. This is the only song where they're competing kind of with each other. It's Gharana versus the royalty free. So we were trying to figure out a way how to differentiate their worlds on the same stage. So I think after a lot of brainstorming, we thought that let's give it that fire and water element.
Yes.
If you remember. So one side, if you see, it's on a cooler side. which is more
Tamanna's side.
and warmer, fiery on Radhe's side. And at one point, I think they kind of mix also.
Absolutely.
They blend into each other. And yeah, apart from that, I think this is one song where even I was shocked after seeing the whole edit of it. This song has so much drama, such good performances, these visuals and colors and all that, it doesn't come into the picture. It all blends in all together. And the way these guys have killed it, even if it's Shiba ma'am, Mohini even reacting like to whatever is happening around her, even Rajendra sir playing flute and all these characters on stage, it's just, I think, pure performance oriented, I feel.
Absolutely. And something we had decided on this, water versus fire is, again, it's not like that we're doing it for the first time. It's a hat tip to RRR, to other great makers who have created those kind of contrast between whether it is two protagonists going after each other, whether it is, the antagonist and the protagonist going after each other and so on. But what was amazing, because we were all on the same stage, right? This is the same stage where Hitchki was shot, Nirmohiya was shot, Araj comes and being shot, Ye Raat was shot, all the other songs, Sakhi Mori was shot and so on. This is the first time we mixed, very clearly demarcated cold versus warm. What I did not expect was that one side was giving the other side their backlight.
Correct.
So when you were on Tamanna's side, suddenly you saw cool on her, but the backlight was warm. And the kind of contrast and that separation that it suddenly started giving that character, and same the opposite to Radhe. And sometimes Tamanna would get into Radhe's world because her character was actually intruding in that space and winning the song for most part until Radhe betrays her. It's my favorite choreography of myself, that we were able to tell story. That was something that going into the series that we spoke a lot about on every front, from the writing to editing to the final execution, where we wanted to make sure the songs are telling the story, and I think we've achieved that most, and thank God for that. It was very important for it to land, and I'm so glad that that story came through, and that credit to Anubhav, to Manini, to Hazel. Every other song we shot. So we shot it for about 1.5 days. We didn't even have the luxury of 2 days.
Yeah, one day and little spillover on the next day.
We had kept 2 days, but because of unforeseen reasons, we had to shrink it to 1 day and a quarter, I think, to shoot this. Because of the amount of reactions and interpretations, I would have taken at least 10 more shots. It was never enough.
And the fear of weather also. So
and
that
the
time
fear
you
of
were
weather, yes.
Like it can rain any time, and we had such crazy outdoor set being put up, and you can't let rain affect.
और बिन मौसम बरसात थी.
बिन मौसम बरसात.
तो हाँ, भगवान भी हमारे साथ यार गरज में भी हुआ था. गरज जब भी बसता था, तो एक्चुअल बारिश होती थी.
All these songs have been created.
Yes.
Literally on the spot. Yes. Like if we are shooting the song,
visually,
Anand sir, visually only.
Yeah.
So Anand sir, and he's busy with his, placing the characters, trying to figure out the choreography, because it can happen on stage only with all the actors around. And me and my light designer, Prathamesh, who's done a fantastic job on this, we are on the FOH and we are trying to figure out this character is sitting here, center yahan le lete hain, let's create this and that. Then like it's in a span of say 30 to 40 minutes, 1 hour at the max before every song.
And I'm glad there was a God over us who was overseeing. ऐसा करना नहीं चाहिए.
I'm proudly saying it, but like go.
मैं तो कह रहा हूँ बच गए. क्योंकि ज़्यादा टाइम मिलना चाहिए था और हमको सोचना चाहिए था, पर कभी गर्मी में अच्छी चीज़ें हो जाती हैं. But we would have loved to take more time and do this. Of course, him allowing me to touch the camera was fantastic, and whether it was doing the zooming or what's gone quite viral about the taps that we have done. तो वो हमारा एक म्यूजिकल जुगलबंदी जो हमारा पीछे होता था. एक और चीज़ करने में मुझे और अनुभव को बहुत मज़ा आया. कई बार प्रथमेश बेचारा, क्योंकि उसके 2 ही हाथ हैं और 10 ही उंगलियां हैं, तो जो लाइटिंग थी वो इतनी ज़्यादा थी, एंड एट मेनी प्लेसेस वी वांटेड इट टू बी स्पेसिफिकली टाइम्ड टू either blink or flash or get out or bring in. So a lot of times on the board, Anubhav and I have actually operated the lights too with Prathamesh, while the wide shots with jibs and so on were taken.
When I'm not supposed to operate or whatever, that time we can be together.
We would be up, and especially I remember during Nirmohiya, because Prathamesh was also getting a hang with us in terms of what we wanted, because that was the first song we shot. The big blinking, then we decided that I'll do, and Prathamesh can handle the larger issues. so that the smaller issues are taken away from him.
Yeah, but you planned it also
तो
in a way.
हाँ बड़ा मजा आया हमें करने में कि मुझे उन्होंने फेडर्स दे दिए कभी और
because this made me understand that your intuition and the actual feeling of being on set and just feeling the space and the vibe all together, you can create the best. I mean,
absolutely.
So how is the dynamic shift of music from Shankar-Ehsaan-Loy sir doing the season 1 and now to Akashdeep sir doing season 2?
So sweet. Akashdeep will be very happy to be called sir. No, so the thing is, we learned how to write Bandish Bandits in our sessions with Shankar-Ehsaan-Loy. So when Amrit and I used to visit them, we knew plot, we knew characterizations, we knew where we want to take the story. But how to tell that story through music is something that we learned on the go. And Shankar-Ehsaan-Loy became very instrumental in that telling. We would go to them with problems, for example, in season 1 when Shuddhikaran happens. तो शुद्धिकरण होता क्या है, ऐसा शास्त्रीय घरानों में कैसे उसका, तो चिल्ला किस्म की कोई चीज़ होती है जो हमको समझाया गया, शुद्धिकरण क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है, वो हमको समझाया गया, उसको म्यूजिकली लोग कैसे करते हैं वो हमको समझाया गया, बिकॉज दे आर ग्रेटेस्ट कंपोजर, मतलब हमारे पैदा होने के पहले से ये काम वो कर रहे हैं, तो उनको बहुत अंडरस्टैंडिंग है इस चीज़ की, तो वो अंडरस्टैंडिंग लेके सीजन 2 लिखा गया. The reason why we went with, say, a music supervisor this time and not one music composer, we realized that season 2 is taking the gharana also out of its comfort zone. It's throwing them into new challenges every episode. Suddenly they will be told that आपको रॉक गाना है, कभी उनको एक पॉप सॉन्ग के साथ इंटरेक्ट करना है, कभी उनको कुछ और करना है. राधे हैज़ टू ट्राई एंड फाइंड हिज ओन वॉइस एंड वे. Tamanna has to go into a music school, which is not going to be just pop. So suddenly we realized that we need people from different disciplines to kind of help us find different voices. So in our discussion with Shankar-Ehsaan-Loy, we came up with the idea that maybe it's a better idea to kind of have a motley of composers. And we got Shankar sir to sing Surhi Paramatma for Atul sir. And we got him listening to our songs, to give his blessings at every stage. तो आकाशदीप के लिए एक बहुत ही बड़ी चीज़ ये हो गई कि एक तो बड़ों से blessings मिल गई, फिर हमको उसने लेकर he took me to various music composers. Some we met in accident, some we met with intention. हमने कई घरानों के लोगों से कई गाने सुने. उसमें पृथ्वी गंधर्व नाम का एक सिंगर है जिसने उनकी बंदिशें हमें सुनाई हारमोनियम पे बैठकर. फिर हमने पृथ्वी गंधर्व को कहा, मैंने एक दिन ऐसे ही पूछ लिया जब बहुत सारे सेशन हो गए कि यार तुम्हारी भी कोई कॉम्पोजिशन हो तो सुनाओ. एंड ही सैंग निर्मोहिया एंड निर्मोहिया बिकेम पार्ट ऑफ आवर सॉन्ग. एंड देन Akashdeep was so resourceful in different, he's a great composer himself. So he knew what kind of composition he can get with whom, and sometimes he would also, he is very much involved in those compositions. क्योंकि मेरा एक्सपीरियंस शंकर-एहसान-लॉय के साथ भी यही था कि मुझे नहीं पता उसके सोल्यूशंस क्या हैं. मैं आपके पास प्रॉब्लम लेकर आऊँगा और मैं आपको एंड गोल बता दूंगा कि मुझे यहाँ तक जाना है. जैसे सीजन 1 में गरज गरज जुगलबंदी में, if Radhe has to sing the entire alap in falsetto, I don't know how much of a blasphemy it is for Shastriya Sangeet. He has to sing in falsetto because that is what he's learned from Tamanna, that falsetto is not wrong. शास्त्रीय संगीत के कुछ घराने उसको गलत मानते हैं, पर वो एंड में falsetto गा के ही बादल को गरजाएगा और पंडित जी पे एक बूंद गिरेगी. पर पंडित जी बह रहे हैं तो पंडित जी को नहीं पता कि उस टाइम पे वो falsetto गा रहा है या रियल वॉइस में गा रहा है. पर बारिश करा दी तो दिग्विजय भी मान जाते हैं कि चलो तुम जीत गए इस बार. पर वो सोल्यूशन क्या है शंकर-एहसान-लॉय ढूंढने का, मेरे को नहीं पता. इफ आई हैव एन एक्सपर्ट लाइक आई हैव यू, आई डोंट वरी अबाउट हाउ विल यू डू इट. मुझे राउंड ट्रॉली शॉट चाहिए, आप फिगर आउट करो कैसे. वो मेरी पढ़ाई नहीं है, तो मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ इन सबको. तो बड़ा मजा आता था यार. पर बंदिश वॉज मेड विथ सो मेनी चैलेंजेस, इंक्लूडिंग द नंबर ऑफ डेज वी वांटेड, द काइंड ऑफ बजट्स वी वांटेड. एंड the thing is na, you never feel like budgets are enough. So thank you so much. I'm very happy that I'm not sitting here with an actor, because what happens is in the promotions of any kind of series of films, the director and the actors are the only ones talking, and one doesn't realize that as much and more is achieved by people like Anubhav. Anubhav trusted me and I trusted him. We have to trust each other. Sometimes we don't trust each other too. तो ऐसा नहीं कि सब रोज़ी होता है. बहुत बार हमारी लड़ाइयाँ होती हैं. But the end goal is to score that goal. So as long as we are scoring the same goal, we are on the right page. So thank you Anubhav for this. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you guys.
अच्छा अब हो गया, थैंक यू, पैक अप।